beautiful people. Just a quick one today. All right. So you see the title. This is going to be a discussion about Kenya versus Rwanda, as I have lived in both countries. I lived in Kenya for 4 years, and I have now lived in Rwanda for 2 years. So just as a backdrop to this, there's a recent article that came out that says Kenya overtakes South Africa as best place for expats to settle. All right. And I will, of course, link this article in the description. And basically it says Kenya was ranked 9th globally, placing it first on the continent ahead of South Africa, which is in the 28th place, and Egypt in 37th place. The Expat Essentials Index by Internations ranks the best and worst places for professionals based on housing, language, digital life, and local administration. So it says, like Indonesia, which is in 6th place, Kenya, which is now in 9th place globally, provides expats with an easy transition in 2 areas in particular, okay? Language and housing. The great result in the former category is most likely due to the fact that English still serves as one of the country's 2 official languages and is widely used in business, education, and government offices. Many expats also have few or no difficulties in finding housing, ranking Kenya 9th out of 52 destinations in this regard. All right. So very interesting. All right. I totally agree with what this article has to say. And I usually get a lot of questions around, well, why did you choose Rwanda over Kenya? Did you have any issues in Kenya? What is the reasoning, right? So I'm going to go over a few main points, okay? So first of all, I love both countries, okay? So this is not going to be a video where I'm bashing any country because I have a deep love for both countries. As you know, I'm always in Kenya, even though I'm now living in Rwanda. I visit Kenya quite frequently because it's a totally different experience over there than what is here, right? So let's get into the reasons as to why I chose Rwanda and maybe why you may choose Kenya, depending on what suits you and what's best for your personality. So I was in Kenya for 4 years for work. Okay, this is a major distinction. I'm now in Rwanda for relocation, repatriation. This is a personal choice, right? And I was not in Kenya for those reasons. I was in Kenya specifically for work. That was where my work location was designated. So I did not choose to go there personally, okay? So it ended up working out well. I absolutely love Kenya. I fell in love, I feel, with Africa while I was living in Kenya. So I don't regret any of that, all right? But now when I'm making the decision to move back to the continent personally with no ties to a job, I had to look at the larger picture and make sure that I was making the best choice for myself, okay? So there are a few things I want you to think about when you're trying to decide which country works for you. Know your priorities, know your plan, and know your personality. All right? So let's hit these main points here. All right? So when I was thinking about my personal move back to the motherland, I had to prioritize a few categories of things that were of high priority to me. Okay, what was most important? Now, at the very top, number 1 on that list is the ability to purchase a home. Okay, that for me is priority. So because I was very focused on landing and purchasing a property, I automatically eliminated any countries that did not allow foreigners to buy property, okay? Countries that I personally love, okay? I would love to live in Ethiopia. As far as I'm concerned, I'm sure I have some sort of connection to Ethiopia. The way that I eat the food, I love the culture. I love everything about Ethiopia. However, foreigners are not allowed to buy property in Ethiopia, okay? So I had to eliminate that country. Same with Tanzania. Kenya, as we just read in the article, does allow foreigners to buy property. So I had my top 3 countries, Rwanda being number 1, Kenya being number 2, Ghana being number 3. So I had a certain list of things that if I landed in Rwanda that did not check off, then I would just automatically go over to Kenya because I knew that I could get those needs satisfied over there. Okay. So number 1 was purchasing property, and not for me, it wasn't just any property. I'm looking for a small space because I am someone who is a minimalist. I live tiny and I needed something that was a studio. That would also reduce the amount of money that I had to put out in order to buy. Okay. So I was looking for a very specific type of housing, and I was able to find that here. A lot of African countries still do not allow foreigners to buy property, so that helped me to narrow down my list efficiently. Okay. Now, for somebody else, their priorities may be different. Okay. For example, there in Rwanda, there is no ocean. Okay. This is a landlocked country. So if you are someone who likes to be near the water, live on the water, then this is not the country for you. Okay. If you want to be oceanside, then you would look at countries like Tanzania, you would look at Kenya. One of the main reasons I like to hop over to Kenya is to go to the beach. I like going to the beach. I like being near the ocean. Do I have to live by the ocean? Not necessarily, but for some people that is a priority, right? So you have to know what matters most to you and make a decision based on that. So I'm going to hit on a few points that I truly appreciate about Kenya to this day. And I think these are points that maybe other people will consider if they're thinking about going there. And then I'll also hit on a few points that I appreciate about Rwanda, and I will make a distinction as to why these are more important for my personality. In Kenya, definitely you can purchase property there. That matters to me. There is ocean. There are many coastal cities that you can move to: Mombasa, Diani Beach, Malindi, Lamu. There are so many coastal, beautiful areas if you're into living next to the ocean that you can explore. You can basically find everything, especially in Nairobi, that you're used to in the States, okay? I typically, when I travel to Kenya, I stock up on a few items that I like to have personally. For example, Dr. Bronner's soap, aluminum-free deodorant, those type of things that are more natural organic items that are not available here in Rwanda, I will go over to Kenya, stock up, and bring them back over here. So if accessibility to certain items are of high priority for you, then Kenya to me would be the better choice for you if that is something of high importance. In Kenya, there are a lot of activities to do, okay? Now, Rwanda, there are things to do, but I will say, one of the top complaints that I hear from people is that they come here and they say, there's not a lot to do. There's not too many activities, not a lot going on. And to a certain extent, that is true, right? Now, this comes into knowing your personality, okay? Now, I'm the type of personality, I'm very content with very few activities. My idea of having a good time is meeting up with friends over a good meal at a restaurant and catching up, having good conversation, right? I don't need the nightlife. I don't need a whole range of activities. I like very simple things. I like art, I like music, food, good company. So those type of things is what brings me joy, right? However, you need to know your personality, okay? If you come to Rwanda and you're like, you feel bored, and understand that that's okay, right? If you realize that this country does not have the amount of activities that is necessary for your personality, then it's okay to explore other countries and see what they have to offer, okay? Now, Kenya has a plethora of activities, okay? That place never sleeps. Now, I'm talking about Nairobi specifically. It may be a little bit slower on more of the coastal cities, but Nairobi, has so many things going on, especially if you are moving here with children, okay? Now, I'm not in the mommy circles or anything here, but I do know that there are limited activities also for the kids here. So if you are looking for something to do with your children on a continual basis, you really have to, be proactive and take the initiative to make that happen. And I know there are a number of mothers here that are doing that, and they seem to be thriving and doing well. However, in Nairobi, things are just there for you, right? If you're living in the city of Nairobi, there are so many activities that you can get your kids involved in. Another major point of consideration is healthcare, okay? Healthcare in Kenya is ranked, I'd say, probably third across the continent, okay? Now, of course, South Africa is quite good. I think it's a little bit above Kenya, but Kenya has made strides in healthcare that is phenomenal. So if you are someone who is concerned about having great access to healthcare, then you may want to look a little closer at Kenya yourself, okay? Not that the healthcare is bad here in Rwanda. It's just not as advanced as I would say it is in Kenya, okay? Of course, there are plenty of restaurants in Kenya. Infrastructure is also very good in Kenya. So there are a lot of pluses. So let's talk about why I chose Rwanda over Kenya. Now, keep in mind, I can pack my bags today and move over to Kenya and live over there quite happily, okay? It's just that Rwanda fits my lifestyle and it suits my personality better than Kenya does, okay? So let's talk about some of the points that I think are important to me. But again, this is very subjective, okay? So you have to come and make your own assessment, all right? So first of all, I love East Africa, okay? I've been privileged to travel all over the continent. I've been to West Africa. I lived in South Africa for a few months. But East Africa is where my heart is. I love the countries over here. So first of all, Rwanda satisfied my requirements for being able to purchase property as a foreigner, and then also being able to speak English here. Even though we do have Kinyarwanda, we have French, there also is little to no corruption here. Unfortunately, in most African countries, there is a lot of corruption. And this is something that is, for me, a high priority. For somebody else, this may not be as important. But I like the lack of corruption that is here in Rwanda. It is easy to open up a business, okay? Yes, I have not opened up a business yet, but I may be doing that in the future. And when I do decide to do that, I would like to be in a country where it's easy to do that, okay? So this satisfied my high priority list of requirements. Rwanda is listed as the 9th global place to be a woman, all right? As you know, most of the government parliament is primarily women. I think over 60% of the parliament is women. So this is something that is very important to me, being a woman myself, okay? I like progression in women's movement. And this is something that is rare in most African countries. So this is something that stood out about Rwanda. Of course, it is known as one of the safest cities in Africa, if not the top safest city, Kigali. And I do like the moderate climate here, okay? In Kenya, it gets hot, but then it also gets quite cold, okay? So not cold where it's snowing or anything like that, but it gets cold over there, okay? So if you are not one who likes cold weather, then you may want to check out some other countries, okay? Here, it's very moderate all year round, not too hot, not too cold, so I do appreciate that. Now, one thing that this country has that other countries do not have are the landscapes, the hills, okay? This is the land of 1,000 hills. And when I first dropped into Rwanda, my first trip here, I was mesmerized by the landscapes, okay? It is something that is so unique to this country that is so beautiful, so gorgeous. Just going out on my balcony, I get to look at all the rolling hills, all the greenery. I absolutely love it. This is what brings me joy. So that was important to me. In Rwanda, they also drive on the same side that they do on the US, okay? And I'm not getting into debate on which side is the right side to drive on. But in Kenya, they drive on the opposite side, okay? So I attempted to drive on the opposite side when I was in South Africa for a few months. That was an absolute disaster, okay? I have no desire to drive on the opposite side of the road. Now, some people can tackle it, but for me, I felt way too anxious. I was way too nervous. So I did not want to settle in a country where they drove on the opposite side of the road. Okay, that's just a personal preference. Infrastructure here is very good. They have very flexible visa options, okay? Rwanda had the longest term visa option, which is the one that I currently have, which is a 10-year visa, which does have a requirement that you have to leave the country every 6 months, but no other country had a term of 10 years, okay? The other maximum that I saw was 5 years for like Gambia and Ghana, okay? So 10 years is a pretty good term. So that was very attractive. And for me, because the size of Rwanda is so small, if you look on the map of Africa, okay, Rwanda is like a dot on the continent compared to if you just scoot over to the right and you look at the size of Kenya, okay, Kenya is like over 20 times the size of Rwanda. So the amount of opportunity that is here is so much more than what is going on over in Kenya because of the mere size, okay? They have access to more things. There are a lot more companies operating over there. There's a lot more competition. So the opportunity that is here in a smaller country to me was highly attractive. Also, because of the small size of Rwanda, there's no real need for me to feel forced to get a car right away, okay? I take motos everywhere that I go. If I don't want to take a moto, I take a cab. So there's no need for me to have a car because everything is in close proximity. It's a very small country. Versus if you're in Nairobi, you definitely need a vehicle over there, okay? And as I mentioned before, they drive on the opposite side. So you would have to assess whether, first of all, you can manage driving on the opposite side, but what is the cost of getting a car? How much is the insurance? All of that I eliminated by moving here. And of course, Kigali is known as the cleanest city in Africa, which is very important to me. That's one of the first things that I noticed when I landed here for the first time was just how clean the streets were. And this was at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So this is something that was very important to me. So you need to understand what is your plan, okay? Are you coming over here as a retiree? Do you plan on finding a job? How are you going to make your income? All right. So for example, if your plan is to find a job, okay, then I would definitely recommend Kenya over Rwanda, okay, because there are more opportunities over there just based on the size of the country, okay? In this small country here, there are very few opportunities, especially for foreigners, okay? So you have to understand what is your plan for survival on a monthly basis, and then pick a country that fits that plan. And lastly, personality, of course, we hit on that earlier, okay? For example, my personality is one that's very casual. I'm very easygoing. I do not need a lot of activity, excitement, right? I am excited just sitting at home and relaxing. Okay, that's exciting enough for me. Going to the spa, meeting up with friends, all of that, okay? However, if your personality is one that needs a lot of activities, then you may want to check out a number of countries, all right? This is why on my channel, I always promote the actual name, okay, which is VisitPlanVenture, okay? First step is visiting, okay? When you are considering repatriation, relocation, you need to spend at minimum 4 to 6 weeks in whatever country you're considering, okay? You want to check out everything. You don't want to spend 1 to 2 weeks. That is not enough time. That's a vacation, okay? You come, you spend a significant amount of time so that you can gather enough information to make an informed decision. And I also tell people when you're coming to the continent, because it's so expensive, you might as well visit at least 2 countries, if not 3, okay? Because you don't want to be going back and forth to the US. That's too expensive, okay? When you're here, pick your top 3 countries, okay? So if I had never been to the continent before, on my trip over here, I would have visited Rwanda, Kenya, and Ghana, okay? Those are the countries that were my top 3. So in each country, you do want to spend at least 4 weeks in each country. Now, of course, a lot of people are like, well, no one has that type of vacation time, especially if you're working a 9 to 5. And I understand that. But I'm telling you, you have to find a way to make that happen because you want to avoid coming here, settling in, and then realizing that, ooh, you know, this country may not be, you know, the one that I want to be in. Then you have to now country hop till you find what's best for you with all of your belongings, with all of your kids. This is not something that you want to do. You want to do all the research by visiting first before you pack up your life and you come over to the continent. One way to do that is to work remotely. I mean, luckily, COVID has opened up the floodgates to remote work, right? So if you're working a 9 to 5 where your employer allows you to work remotely, take advantage of that, okay? If you're not working a 9 to 5, find a way to generate money online where you can travel for multiple weeks and you can visit the countries that are of high priority to you. You want to research a number of different options to make sure that you're able to conduct thorough research before you come over here and you make a wrong decision. So those are the main points. And of course, as I said in the beginning, I love both Kenya and Rwanda. They're very unique and different, and I have deep love and appreciation for both, okay? So I think that these points are important. Figure out what your priorities are, figure out your plan, and figure out your personality, and then figure out what country fits those 3 things. All right, talk to you guys next time. Bye.